It's often the case that Democratic Party loyalists can't understand why Jill Stein supporters don't want to vote for Hillary Clinton when she adopted the same policies that Bernie Sanders talked about during the primary. Case in point, free college tuition. So the problem is that they don't get that we don't believe that Hillary Clinton is actually going to get in office and fight for these things. We know, just like all politicians, she has an agenda, and her agenda is strictly to be elected and enrich her own power. So she decided to endorse tuition-free college or debt-free college, whatever you want to call her plan, in an effort to get Bernie Sanders to drop out and endorse her. That's our view. That's what you think. You can agree or disagree with that. I think facts are on our side when you look at Hillary Clinton's record. Now, Bernie Sanders is a smart guy. He knows about this. He knows that we have our doubts about Hillary Clinton, and we all know that deep down she doesn't give a shit about debt-free college, because if she did want Bernie Sanders' plan, then maybe she should have actually campaigned on it when she started her campaign, and not just as a means of getting Bernie Sanders to quit. So Bernie Sanders talked about what he's going to do and what role he's going to play in her campaign if it is the case that she is elected, and how he's going to get her to actually be liberal like she says she is. So they asked what his role would be if she's elected, and this was his response. My role is to do everything I can see that the Democratic platform, which is the most progressive party platform in the history of this country, is in fact implemented. I just spoke to the secretary last week, and what she told me is that within the first 100 days of the administration, she would be introducing legislation and working with members of Congress on a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United, the 2010 Supreme Court decision allowing unlimited independent spending on elections, to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, to provide pay equity for women, to make public colleges and universities tuition-free for the middle class, and to write very strong legislation on climate change. Those are some of the areas, not all of them. So they then asked how he's actually going to hold her accountable if she does go back on these promises. And he states, I think it's not just me. There are millions of people who understand that we need to create a government that represents all of us and not just the 1%. I think the Democratic platform is a very strong platform and provides a blueprint for moving in that direction. That's what we've got to do. We've got to rally the American people to demand that their government represents all of us and not just the people on top. So it's very clear from this that Bernie Sanders thinks that we're going to have to be the ones to hold Hillary Clinton's feet to the fire. He's really expecting us to protest and show up at Congress and hold up signs saying, hey, this is what you promised. Actually, go through with your promise for once. So do I think this will be an effective strategy? What we typically see is when people are uninspired by a candidate, or, they're not very enthusiastic about the political process, they're just going to tune out, and that's what I'm hoping doesn't happen. So if Bernie Sanders were elected, I would think that this strategy would actually work, because Bernie Sanders would keep those people who he brought into the political process engaged. But if Hillary Clinton is president or Donald Trump is president, people are going to tune out immediately, because they're going to see that it's just a disgusting thing to watch, to see how presidents are bought and paid for by special interests, and they're just going to tune out. I mean, if you look at political science studies, one from Mexico shows that when citizens actually became aware of corruption, they didn't protest that corruption. They decided to just stop voting. So I think that if Hillary Clinton is president, we're going to see a similar effect. And that's really bad. And, it's really frustrating, because I don't think anyone can really galvanize voters like Bernie Sanders can, or like President Obama can. We know that Barack Obama lied to us, and that he was kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will, because he promised to not allow lobbyists to run his campaign for him and run his administration, and he did just that. I mean, when he was elected, he appointed Timothy Geithner, a Wall Street operative, to his campaign immediately. So, I mean, we know that Barack Obama sold out like that. With Bernie Sanders, we know he was the real deal, just because we saw how the whole establishment just came together trying to destroy him, and he also didn't take money from these special interests who he was going to be regulating. So unless we get a candidate that is going to be the real deal, like Bernie Sanders, I don't necessarily know that this strategy is going to actually be effective. I mean, the jig is up. When it comes to Barack Obama, we know that you can't just talk the talk. You actually have to walk the walk. So if you say you're going to be harsh on Wall Street, you can't take their money. So, I mean, Bernie Sanders, what he really did was set a new standard. He made it so that way he not just talked a good game, he actually followed through with it and walked the walk, because he didn't just say, I'm not going to just reign in Wall Street. I'm not even going to take their money. They're not going to be allowed to bribe me. And that's why they were so terrified. One of Hillary Clinton's good friends, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein, he said that Bernie Sanders was dangerous. That goes to show you that Bernie Sanders was the real deal. So I'm not very hopeful that this strategy will work, because I don't necessarily think the American people are going to be inspired. I think they're just going to stop following politics if they don't believe any change is going to happen. Because, I mean, if you're disgusted with something and it's making you depressed, you stop following it. So unfortunately, that's what I think is going to happen. And I don't think it's going to work. So if Bernie Sanders is really expecting that Hillary Clinton is going to follow through with her promises, and that it's going to require more than just us taking her word, and we're actually going to have to fight for progressive policies, then he's got to come up with something else, because I really don't think this will be effective.